we are on an exploratory journey together, and it's my job to tell you what that is and what we're learning so far with it. And buckle your seatbelts because it is actually going to be a journey with Prezi, and I'm going to try not to make you dizzy. But just close your eyes for a minute if you need to. I won't go too fast. So, what is an exploratory journey? Well, I think of it as what Otto Scharmer and his colleagues call listening for the future that wants to emerge. And so what does that mean? Well, one way of thinking about it is in the shape of a U. It's a U process, where we start up at the upper left part of the U, and we're sharing what we know, what we think we know, and then opening our minds as much as we can to what else. And then opening our hearts. We started that already with each other, with Adrian's support, really connecting. And then even deeper, opening our wills. What could come through if we relax the ego, relax our striving to prove something, and be so present down at the bottom that we can hear the future that's wanting to emerge. And then on the up side is trying things, sensing what we can let come. And CORE has done this process throughout our history, and in little ways and big ways. You try something and then you listen again. So it kind of cycles through many U's. And this is a bit of a deeper dive to really think about, now what? We've been trying some things. And we're going to be engaging with some of these questions throughout the evening. What else? What's not here? I'm just going to focus in on one of them at this point, so that you know kind of what the context is here of how your input is going to be getting engaged coming up. So this is participatory. That's the most motion sickness inducing one there. This participatory decision-making process is, input from this morning and from interviews and surveys that we're going to tell you about, and really this listening process. And as Adrian referred to, she's coming back in July. We're going to have a day-long meeting that day with anybody really who considers themselves a stakeholder and, that has some input. We're interested in the possibility of you being there if you're interested. And we're going to be really looking at which ideas have the most juice from the process so far, and what do we have the capacity to do. So if you're interested, there'll be a place to sign up at the end, or you can talk to me or Julie. And then just so you know how CORE makes its decisions, ultimately there is a steering committee, which again, if we decide to continue as CORE, which is really on the table, whether or not we do that, but if we do, we're likely to expand that steering committee. And I'm technically what Sam Kainer and friends call the meta decision maker, kind of, like if we can't reach consensus, or if we need someone to decide how much alignment do we need before proceeding, that's me. And then fiscal decisions, monetary decisions are subject to approval by our fiscal sponsor, the Center for Community Stewardship. So, backing way up now into what I'm calling contextual currents. Not just where's CORE been, but what are the currents that CORE is kind of swimming in the world? And there's lots we could talk about here. Big globalization kinds of things, widening economic inequality, increasing political polarization. There have been movements lately that have been really strong and powerful, getting us to really talk about class and race in ways that we haven't before. Locally, the Race to Equity report has really gotten a lot of us talking, especially white people talking in ways we haven't about race before. Young, Gifted, and Black and other local leaders have leading a lot in the communities of color here. And, environmental crises. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's what I call a transformational capacity building movement happening around the country and around the world, of people really trying to dig into how do we do leadership development, organizational development, movement development in new ways, using spirituality, using deep psychological work on ourselves as well as our movements. So there's all kinds of scary and cool stuff going on. And there's lots more, I'm sure, that people could add to this. These are just some of the kinds of things that we've thought about. And some of the history locally of related training and capacity building efforts, there used to be a Wisconsin Apprentice Organizers Project that Julie was the founding executive director of, and it's no longer, but some of the movements happening now here are people who are graduates of that work. The Grassroots Leadership College, similarly, actually we were housed in the GLC before early on, and they are no longer, but a lot of those leaders live on, work on. And our history, the idea dates back to 2007. It was really just a kind of a kitchen table idea at that point. And we have this is actually almost the size. We have a big giant spiral that we made. We didn't bring it today, but here's a picture of it to think about the spiraling growth of CORE. And really 2010 was when we got it off the back burner and started taking action with the Grassroots Leadership College. And at that time, our concept was there are organizations, there are consultants, there are funders. How can we improve their work together so that we can all be more effective? Fast forward a couple years, 2012, we did our first round of connector matchmaking, what became Match for Change, where we did matchmaking between organizations and consultants and gave matching funding to support that work together. And at that time we realized, these aren't separate groups of people really. These are different hats that people wear. And some of us wear all of them and other hats. And where the overlap really is what we're interested in, and where people are change makers in their different roles. And we were thinking about how if we're in better relationship to each other, and if we have time for reflection, we can be more effective together. By the fall of 2013, we opened our own office. We started doing funder engagement and regular consultant circle gatherings. We started then doing our Pro Action Cafe, or what's now known as Core Action Cafe sessions, and did another round of matchmaking and grant making. By spring of 2014, we decided, okay, we've been trying stuff. What's really our brand? What's our brand? What are we creating here? And dug deeply into what's our promise, our target audience, values, etc., and came up with this statement of, how to say what are we really about, which is that we bring people together to cultivate individual and collective strength, courage, and creativity in service of a just, peaceful, sustainable world. So moving into late 2014, early 2015, we were bringing people together in these different ways. Consultant circles monthly, 3 or 4 times a year, Core Action Cafe, and we started doing these funder confabs, bringing funders together. And then in February of 2015, we had a steering committee retreat, and we worked with Darren Harris. It was wonderful. We put a bunch of ideas on the wall about, we were starting to ask, okay, what do we want to be when we grow up, now that we've tried all these things? And we decided instead of trying to be the strongest, most powerful organization to deliver on all this that we could, we wanted to continue growing as what we are, which is a distributed relational network of reciprocity, people working together to really change how the culture of making change happens in our community. So that brings us to early 2015 in February, and a couple of weeks after that retreat was March 6th. And you may remember that as the date that Tony Robinson, a young African-American man, he was killed by a police officer here in Madison, really bringing home to Madison all the stuff that we were paying attention to on the national scene. And coincidentally, that was also the day that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And CORE, we really stepped way back last year while I was going through breast cancer treatment. A lot of my donated time was part of what makes CORE happen, and we also, one of our other staff people left during that time, and we really stepped back, and I'm doing well now as far as we know, and as I was coming back into work, we really were taking a deeper dive in reflection than we had. We always are reflecting on what we're doing and changing it up, but we already had been ready to, with Match for Change, our big program, to say, okay, we need to completely change this up. And this is a life-threatening disease. It's not one that they have. It's not a version of breast cancer that they have good, easy treatments for, and there's a reasonable chance it could come back within 3 years, and there's no cure. So, there's a much bigger chance that it won't. But that's we're kind of looking at that. Okay, how can we do something in response to that reality check, both about me and about the world? Is the work we're doing really the most important work we could be doing with my time, with the money that we're putting into this, with Julie's time? And really part of the picture too is that the funding, although the funding for CORE has gone up steadily, it's really the percentage that comes from the Katz Family Foundation from me and Don has remained at about 75%. So that's not really a sustainable situation for CORE, and also it's a lot of money. It's like we want to be, are we doing the most transformational thing that we could be doing with this money? So that's really some of the background for this exploratory journey. Like let's ask these deep questions, and just a little background for what we've done so far. In addition to this morning's meeting, we met in person with 42 people. And 73 additional people filled out online surveys. And combined, that's about 20% of the number of people in our active contacts list. And with the face-to-face interviews, we made a point of reaching out especially to people of color, even people who didn't know much about CORE at all, just to kind of say, what might be relevant about the work we're doing to what's happening in your communities. The people, similarly to the folks gathered here, played different roles. Consultants, organizational staff, university people, funders, other roles. This doesn't add up to 100% because people have multiple roles that they identify with. And really, we've been digging really deeply into what have people said already. And Betsy Swenson's working for us as a consultant, helping us compile a lot of the information, and we're reading through it all. And we're not going to try to summarize it all because there's a lot in there. But a few of the takeaways that we think we're hearing so far are, we asked people in the survey, what are the top 3 adjectives that come to mind when you think of CORE? And this is a word cloud where the size of the word is the frequency that people said an adjective like related to this. And there's also, and this is up on the wall too, so you can look at it later, and there's all kinds of wonderful quotes, moving quotes, thought-provoking quotes that we're capturing. Here's one. CORE creates ways for us to talk to each other, meet each other, work with each other, all so we can accomplish more with less suffering and more joy. See some nods, people who've experienced that. We also are compiling, really quick themes, and so these different colors are the different CORE programs. The blue is Consultant Circle, the red is CORE Action Cafe, the green is Match for Change. This is actually the connectors. There were enough of them on the survey to have a group of them. And so these are the percentage of these people who said that CORE programs help them a lot with new ideas and cross-pollination, increasing understanding of capacity building, increased skills as a consultant, strengthening networks, finding out about skilled consultants. So we're having a fair amount of impact for the folks that responded in this way. And what we think, one way to describe what this story is that our greatest contribution is it's connecting and learning, but it's in how we do that, how we bring people together in a supportive and caring environment, thoughtful, reflective, engaging, energetic, all those words in the word cloud. That it's really the how, the culture that we're building of how we do this connecting and learning. So we're also hearing some about what's not here, who isn't represented, critiques. One person said maybe we have a tendency towards an unhealthy degree of positivity. Other critiques, too much emphasis on consultants, that we need to increase our cultural sensitivity, our inclusivity, our accessibility. We have a lot of words, not necessarily accessible to somebody whose language background is different from English. Match for Change puts too many resources in the volunteer connectors, not enough directly to the organizations. The funder confab, maybe the funders who need to be there to make it useful are not showing up as much because they're not as interested in learning and collaborating from other funders. There are other critiques in there. I pulled out some of the ones that really stood out for me. So we also heard a lot of suggestions and what I call yearnings for what we could do more of. And that's really what we're going to ask you to engage more deeply with. They're up on the wall, and you're going to get to look at these at much more depth, but just to review the big headlines categories that we sorted them into here. One set is about continuing the work of strengthening organizations and doing that more, and more ideas for how to do it. And then similarly, continuing the work with consultants of how to educate, support, and strengthen consultants, and more ideas for how to do that. And then more and improved ways of doing this matchmaking, all kinds of ideas for how to improve that, including making it more relevant specifically to racial justice, including perhaps working co-creatively with communities directly, not just through organizations. There's a theme that I'm calling leaning into convening, that really the convening is what we do well, and how we do it matters. And so different ideas for who could benefit, what kinds of issues and groups could benefit from those practices. There was also a strong theme where a lot of people were talking about let's not just be about process, let's be about impact. What's the impact that we want to make collectively, and can we get funders, consultants, community members, et cetera, working together towards some kind of shared vision. And then there were a bunch of comments about how to build CORE's own capacity, focus, improve our outreach, enhance what we're doing, and lots of people said partnerships. And then also a theme of expanding CORE to other places and documenting it, spreading it, those kinds of things. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're learning so far on the exploratory journey.